Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic. Welcome to my channel. If you're a new viewer or if you're an old viewer, then Friday is the day to come to my channel if you want to hear about comic books. On Wednesday I showed my pull list of what I picked up on New Comic Book Day, and today is the day that I will tell you what I thought about them, my reviews, my thoughts, my opinions. And it was a bit of a funny old week. Lots of ups and downs with the books. There is a pick of the week, which will be a separate video, which will be loaded up straight after this one, so don't forget to look out for that. And I got an idea that it's not what you think it's going to be if you've seen my Wednesday video. It kind of came as a surprise to me, but I still think of all the books I picked up, I enjoyed the most, and I would like you to enjoy it too. But that's the video after this. Let's crack on. And with my first book, I'm finding it very, very hard not to swear with this title at the moment because it continually disappoints, and Batman Eternal issue 49 was no difference. This is such an insulting issue to anyone who has put up, hung in with this title for this long. With only, what is it now, 2-3 issues to go, and you give me this shit. Oh really, I read this in mere minutes. It was like 2 or 3 minutes, and I got to the end and I was kind of like, wait, where is the rest of this? You have given me pure filler, and it's not even good filler. At the end of last week's issue, we had these kind of hanging, almost exciting plot points, but as quickly as they happened, they were equally quickly resolved. As quickly as Gordon was captured by Penguin and his kind of over-muscled goons, Gordon escaped but took Penguin with him and kind of knocked him around a bit. No sooner has Stephanie Brown, the spoiler, been captured by her father, the Clue Master, she escapes. No sooner were the whole Bat Gang in trouble, they're saved. And this is the one point that really annoyed me, and that was Alfred. Alfred apparently had a code that he could have got out of the kind of Bat prison whenever he wanted. Why did he wait for Hush Tommy to put the Bat Gang in danger in the first place? It just made no sense. This was a horrid issue. I am not giving it any more of my airtime. Moving swiftly on, I feel. It's Astro City issue 21 from Vertigo, and we finally come to the last part of this 4-issue storyline, which kind of focuses on Quarrel and her kind of on-off lover, partner, Crackerjack. At the end of issue 20, Crackerjack went off on his own to try and do a deal with the villains so he could kind of get his youth back and become a superhero once more and still kind of stay in the game. But of course it all went wrong and he was caught, and we kind of see the end repercussions of that fatal decision. We have the kind of super gang trying to find out where he is, and finally, after weeks of looking, they find the enemy's base. Kurt Busiek does a really good fake out at the beginning of this, and if you've not read this issue yet and you don't want it spoiled, I would stop listening until you see me bring up the next issue. But it almost looks as though Crackerjack has kind of switched sides, and he is kind of, for want of a better phrase, turned to the dark side, but in a deal so he can gain his youth. But what has actually happened is that the villains have cloned him. They have used this life-giving, youth-giving serum, and cloned lots of crackerjacks, and experimented and tortured his original body, and basically literally just thrown him out into the garbage when he was of no longer use, and have now deserted the base. This has left Crackerjack absolutely done. There is no way he is coming back from the experimentation on his body. It looks as though he will never walk again. And this is the end of the line for Crackerjack. And that was a sad thing, because while it says, you know, he was never the best superhero, he was, you know, never the safest of them all, you know, he just wasn't the best of them, but he still played a part in keeping Astro City safe, so it is a loss nonetheless. Now the problem, and it's only a very small one, is the characterisation at the end of this of Quarrel. We've seen her progress through her life, because this has been very much a kind of origin story of Quarrel. It's been her history of when she started to where she is now, because on some levels she is a kind of almost Batman-like character, in that she doesn't actually possess any powers. She has trained her body to the peak of its performance, and she continually has to train it to keep up with the proper super-powered, the rest of the gang, the group. So she has to rely more on her physical skills and gadgets to get by, especially as she gets older and older. And while we have seen the kind of little inserts while we've been having these flashbacks that, you know, she's in a quandary whether to keep going with this life, or does she kind of give up and retire. But it's just the way and the choice and the reason she chooses to eventually retire. And that is, in essence, to become the carer role for Crackerjack. She is going to make sure he does walk again. He is going to, you know, get through this. He may not come back as Crackerjack, but at least he'll be a kind of fully functioning human being. And it just kind of felt that she was leaving behind everything that she had worked so hard for, to throw it away to look after someone. And in some respects she's falling into that female carer role, looking after the man in some respects. But at the same time, it was a very kind of sweet moment that, despite everything that Quarrel had actually been through with Crackerjack, because they certainly had their own ups and downs, and it was quite that abusive relationship, that she did have that inside her to give up all that super-heroicing for the man she does love and she wants to care for. So while this storyline did stretch out a bit, I don't think it needed 4 issues. It ended reasonably well. Star Wars issue 3, and this title is, it's just a title that I enjoy for what it is. Die-hard fans may have some problems with the whole continuity of this, but I'm just gonna have fun with it. I'm not one of those die-hard fans. I don't know the ins and outs and inner working mechanics of a Millennium Falcon. And, you know, I don't care when these people might have met or should have met or should know of each other. at this point, with it being between New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. So I'm going to kind of distance myself from those movies, but at the same time this feels like it is a movie that should have come in between those two actual films, because it has everything you expect from a kind of Star Wars movie when you're kind of in that middle to end part where there's a daring kind of escape, and they throw everything in that you will love. You have the whole gang there. There's Luke, there's Han, there's Leia, there's C-3PO, there's Chewbacca, there's Darth Vader. Everyone's there. On top of that, you've got AT-ATs, you've got the speeder bikes, you've got lightsabers. It's all in there. And while the story may kind of be, let's be honest, it is light on plot, it is heavily action-packed, and sometimes that's just what you want. Lots of big explosions and sci-fi fun. The only kind of interesting point in this issue is at the very end, where we see these kind of nondescript characters, really. I don't think, or maybe they will turn up to be something, but I think they were put there just to kind of drive by Obi-Wan's old home on Alderaan, not Alderaan, is it Tatooine? See, I'm not a fan. Where Luke used to live with uncle and aunt, whoever they were. There is in the house a box, and it is just it's addressed to Luke. So what is in that box? Is Luke going to go back, and what repercussions from the contents of that book will take our characters next? Just having fun with it, and so should you. Now from here on, it all starts to get a little bit trippy. East of West issue 18, and we drop by back with Death's son, who has is still kind of on his travels, being manipulated by this robot kind of floating ball that's attached to him, that is actually showing him not what is actually the surroundings. The kind of this floating robot ball is giving him visions of a desolate wasteland that has been kind of ravaged by who knows what, but actually he's walking through this kind of lush green landscape, and the poor boy is certainly being kept in the dark and essentially manipulated by these kind of darker forces. He is meant to be this chosen, this beast that's going to bring the whole world down. And it's not until the kind of introduction of this new character, Prophet Orion, where things start. It's fun. It's a funny kind of moment, because we as the reader see the true form of this Orion character, who is astride this kind of almost lizard-like creature. He isn't exactly, a handsome chap himself, but what the robot floating head is showing him is kind of like the dashing prince astride an over-large guinea pig. And there is these gorgeous fun scenes with the boy playing with what he thinks is a big guinea pig, but is actually this kind of hideous lizard, really long tongue creature, and the kind of juxtaposition between the two images, it just kind of raises a smile, especially on my face. What else is going on around is that we have this kind of, I guess, this dark cabal type of group who have another candidate to potentially be the beast, this chosen one who is going to bring down the world. And it is, again, it's a baby, and it's being hooked up to kind of all this all these wires that are going to feed him information that will turn him against the world and society, I guess. By the end of this issue, there is this kind of emotional departure between Death and his wife, Lady Mao, as I presume he's off to go and find his son still, after having a little kind of break and a pleasure with his wife. We find out that the war is increasingly getting closer, and she has more people to fill her army and hopefully win this oncoming war. The artwork, as always, by Jagota is gorgeous on this book, and the colouring as well by Martin it just fits this beautiful kind of sci-fi book to a T, and I'm so glad I hung on with this. Find this book in trade. There's at least a couple of trades out by now. It's a slow goer to begin with, and I think that's why a lot of people dropped off, but if you stick with it, you will be rewarded. Shutter issue number 10, and do not be put off by this awful cover, because it is a terrible cover. We've been treated to some very nice covers of Shutter in the past, but this is awkward, it's chaotic, it's not very nice to the eye. But what's inside is very nice, and also just a slight bit trippy. We have Kate and her sister Kellyanne having dived into the dream world as they go off to find their mother. And while this hasn't been an easy transition from the real world into this dream state for Kate, because apparently Kellyanne has already been here and is used to this kind of transition from the realms, Kate really has to pull herself together, and to do so she has to find the essence of her own identity, what she wants to be and has become, and we see this kind of triumphant vision of her as the photographer. It's not the adventurer that she was with her father. What she truly wants to be is I guess this kind of photographer. And so we find ourselves landed in this dream world, and it is not a safe journey. We have some inhabitants in here who are attempting to attack these two young women, but the biggest threat is not from that, as while they are trying to make their way and battle these inhabitants through this kind of purple glaciers wasteland, it kind of pulls a Star Wars kind of trick on us. The realm that they think they're on, it's actually a real person. It's King Rathbone, and King Rathbone has apparently some ties to Kate. But is Rathbone going to be a friend or foe? Is he going to be helpful in any way? Well, looking at the last panel, I'm thinking not. Again, inside, the artwork is really gorgeous. It has this kind of dreamlike, trippy essence to it, which I really dug. I can't imagine people wanting to pick this book up, though, from this awful cover. Now finally for this video, because don't forget my pick of the week video comes straight after this. This is the book that I think that you would have thought I'd pick for my pick of the week, and maybe if I'd had time to read it a few more times it could have been, because there are certainly some great stuff to enjoy in this. It's a #1 from Image. It is The Surface, written by Cott with I think it's Foss, or is it Toss, but this draw for me was Geordie Belair on the colours, because she is doing some amazing colouring on so many good books at the moment that, you know, regardless of what I knew or didn't know about this title, I had to at least give it a go, and I will continue with this because it is a very interesting title, but it's one that demands a lot of concentration from you. This literally took me till, I obviously picked this up on Wednesday, it wasn't until Thursday that I managed to read it properly through avoiding all distractions around me, because it is packed full of kind of interesting ideas and concepts. I mean, I don't know if I've understood them all. I've probably picked out two of the most basic ones to talk about here, but this book certainly has a lot to do with questions. I just looked through it, and regardless of the nature of the questions, how kind of deep or how simple they are, there are, if I've counted correctly, 57 questions within this comic book, and that's excluding, and I had to kind of work this out in my head at first, these kind of articles that were stuck in the middle and at the end of this comic book, because I thought they were actually part of the comic. It was kind of a funny gimmicky concept of it, but once I'd read it again, and especially the last part, because it's a 3-part interview, but you only get the first 2 parts, which I thought was strange anyway. But the third part, I'm thinking, well, is this actually an interview with our writer? Because, you know, they're referencing comic books and your past works. And while I didn't really do much investigation into either, I kind of took it that, oh, okay, these are actual interviews, these are actual articles that the writer has participated in. It just seems strange that there wasn't a first part, and the second part was stuck right in the middle of the book. But regardless of that, there is a lot of kind of social commentary here on social media and the idea of connectivity. We are in a probably not so distant future where the idea where you fix yourself up with very kind of small cameras and microphones around your body, you leave them on permanently, and you basically share your life 24/7. And much like Facebook, you know, you can set these, you can share this with just your friends, or you can set it to private, or you can just share it with certain people. And there is this idea of the information that's on there no longer belongs to you once it's on this kind of data file, and that it belongs to these huge companies that can use it. So, you know, it's reflecting what our society and social media is at the moment, but taking it to the next degree. There is also this kind of Matrix vibe to it. And that's in relevance to the surface, where the actual kind of where they are isn't real, and there's a surface. It's very difficult for me to describe right now, but there is a real place where people kind of live their real lives. However, we have our 3 main characters going out to try and find this entrance or surface to see the kind of real world that's not this hologram image that it is kind of purported it to be, but it's this kind of trippy, nonsensical kind of surroundings. I did enjoy it. Like I said, this book is something that I'm going to have to definitely reread to grasp the full scope of it. Cott is definitely he's definitely out there. He's got some pretty wacky ideas, and I'll stick with it and see where he goes, at least for the first few issues. Okay folks, that's it for this week. Just my pick of the week video to come straight after this, but thank you all for getting this far and watching my videos. I always appreciate all your support. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And in the comments section down below, let me know if you picked up any of the books that I did and what you thought of them. Let me know. I'd love to know what Howard the Duck was like. It wasn't a book that intrigued me or I wanted to buy, but I am kind of interested to know from anyone who did pick it up, was it actually any good? And did I miss anything? So until next week, have a great weekend.